following program is paid for by Barbara Arnwine.
The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of Urban One Incorporated, Radio One, or any of its subsidiary companies.
It's time now for Igniting Change, a weekly provocative and empowering program where you, the listener, can ignite change. Now here's your host, Barbara Arnwine.
Get up, stand up. Stand up for your right.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Igniting Change. Oh, we got a good show for you today because you're going to hear directly from your radio co-hosts what our thoughts are on many recent developments. So we are just grateful that you have joined us today for this very different and very special show. And you know I am here in the beautiful city of New York and enjoying being here at Christmas time. And I am grateful for all of the hard work that people are doing around this country to fight this terrific, horrific Trump administration and all of the evil that is coming out of their concerted push to undermine our democracy. So with that said, let me bring up my wonderful, amazing co-host. Let me bring up the most powerful, most unrelenting, most dedicated lawyer that I know. We are so proud that he is the chairman of the board of the Transformative Justice Coalition, and it is our absolute honor to be able to welcome him to today's show and all of the work that he does to make sure that the Transformative Justice Coalition is an amazing organization and that we do the work that has to be done in this moment. Welcome, Daryl Jones. Hey, Attorney Jones.
Hey, Barbara Arnwine. It must be Tuesday. It must be noon Eastern Standard Time because we're talking about igniting change. And Barbara, my goodness. It seems as though I'm a broken record. I say week after week after week that we can't believe what happened the following week and how much has happened in between the days that we have our show. And once again, we find ourselves in the middle of a whole bunch of stuff that's happened. But let me tell you, I would be remiss if I did not tell you that we're envious that we can hear the chestnuts roasting on the open fire right there on the street corners of New York City where you are, because I know they are all fired up and the trees are out and the wreaths are out and the dancers are out and the ice skating rink is up. I know you're enjoying yourself, Barbara, but that's all right. It's all right.
Well, I'm here, and everyone, I want you to join me throughout the country in sending a shout of love to the African American Policy Forum, yes, headed by the amazing Professor Kimberly Crenshaw. And to last night, they had a special commemoration of the 11th, did you hear me? The 11th anniversary of Say Her Name. It was amazing. All the moms were gathered of the daughters, of the cousins, of everyone who's been slain by police. All the black women unjustly slain by police. Many of them who had called the police for help, and they ended up dead instead of assisted. There's so much, and we had this incredible play last night to imagine what the world would have been like if these wonderful women had lived, and at the same time dealing with the reality of their loss and how that has devastated families. And how critical the work is of Say Her Name and bringing the mothers together and the daughters and the sisters and everyone together so that they can hold each other up and affirm each other despite that tragedy of murder by government, murder by the police. So I just, want to give a shout out of love to the African American Policy Forum for all the work that it's done, to Gina Bess, to Fran, to Rhonda Dormius, and so many others who have just been there through these years to uphold these mothers in their pain, their suffering, but also their renewal. So I was just blessed, Daryl, to be here and to be part of that magnificent program.
Absolutely, Barbara. And, one of the wonderful things about the African American Policy Forum and its programming, let's say her name, and the other programs that it operates as well, is that they don't operate in a vacuum. They don't keep it in one corner or anything like that. They're all over the place. They're in the communities. They're wherever they can go to try to teach, to lift up with regards to whether it's misogyny, whether it's racism, whatever it is. They are willing to do the heavy lifting. They're willing to do the work, and they're willing to team up with organizations such as ours, TJC, to get out there and do that work, Barbara, and that's major. And it's one of the things that we really do need at this point in time in the United States for all the things and all the challenges that we are currently facing. We definitely need partners like the African American Policy Forum.
Absolutely. The stronger the partnerships, the stronger the alliances, the stronger the coalitions, the stronger us coming together and say, let's fight together, the better the outcomes. So everyone, this is just as you are looking at this holiday season, don't forget the fighting organizations like the Transformative Justice Coalition, like the African American Policy Forum, like the Black Voters Matters, and all of the other great organizations that are out there. Don't forget us. We also want to do this work. It has to be done. If we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it. So it's a great moment for you to give your support to our ongoing fight. Daryl, I believe we've also been joined by our wonderful board member, who is also the CEO of the Concerned Black Men of America, the wonderful, amazing Dr. Karen McRae. Dr. McRae, are you with us?
I am. How are you? I'm here.
All right now. All right.
Hey, Sam.
Yeah. It's so good to have you. Folks, the title of this show and the reason why we wanted you to really be focused with us today is that we're talking about confronting the challenges of our times, the wrongs of the Trump administration, and the Roberts Supreme Court. Oh, yes, that Roberts Supreme Court. Ooh, we got some talking to do. And we're just, we're going to be talking about the U.S. Department of Education's delisting nursing as a profession for purposes of obtaining governmental loans, the lawlessness of the Caribbean boat bombings, the Supreme Court's Texas redistricting decision, the Jasmine Crockett senatorial bid, oh my goodness, and the Supreme Court failure to review the Texas book banning case, oh, and so much more. But it's our pleasure that you are listening to us today. So let us start with you, Karen. Come on. Karen, what the heck is going on? What did the Department of Education do? Talking about that they're going to declassify. Is that what they said? The nursing. Go ahead. Tell us what happened. What happened?
Well, my understanding is that the Department of Education has decided to declassify as professional careers nurses, physical therapists, occupational therapy, dental hygiene, social work, and certain degrees in architecture, education, and accounting. Now, this doesn't affect anyone in undergrad. What it affects is those who are going for higher degrees, masters, PhDs, etc. So what they're suggesting is that, particularly with nurses, they keep calling nurses heroes, but saying is that heroes need to go into lifelong debt. So they will not be eligible for student loans. And this especially harms Black, Latino, and rural students who already face barriers to higher education. And then you have hospitals who are desperate for workers and nurses, yet what this administration is saying is that it will quietly shrink the pipeline. So if they undercut nurses in education now, the price later will be paid in our emergency rooms and in understaffed ICU. So it affects us long term. They don't care. They don't care. I believe this all goes back to Project 2025 because, they want to segregate women as less than and make them more dependent on men. So that if women, which these fields are primarily dominated by, aren't able to secure loans or what's needed to fulfill their dreams, well then Project 2025 comes back into play. And
Karen and Daryl, there are real consequences to this. I mean, for those of us who are depending on the healthcare system to treat our illnesses, to help, to treat our family members, etc. What does it mean? Because some people are saying this means that we're going to have less nurses. And less people are going to go in the profession. They're not going to take on that debt. What do you think?
I agree, because by removing loan support and making education in these fields more expensive and inaccessible, what they're saying is that their policy is undermining the ability of women, especially women of color and from lower income backgrounds, to train for jobs that are critical to community health, community health care and welfare. And this is all at a moment when these professions are already facing shortages. So you talk about understaffed hospitals now. If you're in an emergency room and you're sitting instead of for 1 hour, you're sitting for 3 hours.
Yes.
It's real basic. But in those hospitals that are already facing Medicare and Medicaid cuts, so they're already short-staffed. They're already cutting down services. They're already closing doors. Now you're saying, we're not going to give you enough nurses either. It's really sad. It's pathetic.
And Karen, does the administration or any other entity give any other justification for for trying to invoke this policy that clearly is going to be harmful on the healthcare side of Americans?
Mm-hmm. No, there has been no pushback whatsoever from where you think it would be coming from the entire Congress. But you have different organizations that are naturally protesting and are up in arms. But those who are most affected, just like those states that were most affected by food stamps, SNAP, Medicare, Medicaid, are silent. They are silent in this issue on this issue as well. That's what makes it so.
Yeah. I mean, and it could be that part of it is that most people don't know what it means and what's going on, with regards to, this whole challenge. So again, I mean, fortunately, for Barbara and myself and you, that we have outlets like, Igniting Change to try to lift it up. But a lot of times, people just don't, and there's just so much that's going on right now that I just wonder if it's just just a loss of information that people just don't know what it means to have this challenge that's being imposed.
I think I agree. I definitely agree. But I think as well, too, it's their, flood the zone mentality. We have stuff coming at us every day. And a lot of folks have, put this on the back burner. They don't realize the long-term implications, because it's not just that young students won't be educated. They don't see the down the line on how that affects us. Anyone can be in an emergency room, anyone at any time. But if you don't have a nurse or even a nurse practitioner, that's one of the fields that's being eliminated too, to assist you when you're ailing, what are the consequences of that?
Wow.
And
Wow.
That's where we are. That's where we are.
But, I keep saying, and I know people think that I'm just being totally wowed and totally provocative and out there. But I'm telling you, they intend to kill people.
Yes.
This is no accident. Project 2025, folks, is the nice version of what they're up to. They absolutely are doing everything to make sure that no new great medicines are being developed, to make healthcare more expensive, to now make sure that you can't even get care if you have the ability to pay for it. This is not coincidental,
right?
people.
The vaccines too. Don't vaccinate people, right?
Exactly. Don't vaccinate anybody. Don't even vaccinate the babies. I mean, they just want people to die. People, you got to understand that this is their eugenics theory. Is that if you're poor, it's because you are genetically inferior. They're already, white supremacist, racist, and they intend to just let people die. And they're doing it at every level possible. I'm sorry, folks. RFK ain't just a fool. He is a killer. And you got to understand what we're up against. And we cannot, when I say RFK, I'm talking about Robert, Kennedy, and I'm talking about his, horrible, and deliberately anti, people's health policies that he's instituting all over the Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC and so many other entities. Folks, we are in trouble. And if you're not calling that Senate hotline, if you're not calling that congressional hotline to the House and saying, who are you representing? If you're representing me, stop it. Stop this Department of Education from declassifying nurses. What is that hotline number again? 202-224-3121. 202-224-3121. Go ahead, Daryl.
And Barbara, do you believe, because I suspect that there is this integration, if you will, between what's going on and what you classify as them trying to kill people, while at the same time increasing all of this AI, right? So we have all of this AI that are taking jobs, that are taking the places of what people can do, and there's less of a dependency then that is needed for human beings, right? And for what you classified as what they call low-level intelligence, that can be replaced with artificial intelligence. And they don't have to worry about paying it. They don't have to worry about the health benefits. They don't have to worry about all this other stuff. Are you saying, Barbara, in your analysis that there's an interrelationship that exists that's there?
Yes, they believe that the world population is too high, and they are purposefully instituting these policies. Even the whole, USAID. People run around and say, well, Musk, he's just, he was just trying to save money and cut costs. No. When he shut down USAID, that was a plan of mass murder. He's a serial killer. And as a consequence, it's now estimated that between 330,000 to 900,000 people will die unnecessarily, mainly in Africa and in the Far East, that these are the targets of that genocidal policies. People, you need to wake up, pay attention. This is not just bad people making bad decisions or stupid people being incompetent. This is absolutely evil. And we have to stop it, and we have to save lives, and we have to prevent it. So we need to be thinking about this with every fiber of our being to stop it from happening. And it's ugly, and we got to get the Department of education to reverse this horrible policy that will take away our nursing professionals who we are so critically reliant upon.
And Barbara, can we pivot from there? I want to go into one other little piece of that, because when you throw that Department of Education piece in, and you throw in Project 2025, and you throw in what Karen was just raising with regards to the attack on nursing that they now have that's going on, we have to then think about, why do they want to abolish the Department of Education? Right? It's got to be there. It's got to be there. They want to demolish the Department of Education. Barbara, what our friend Randy Weingarten from AFT would say is that they want to abolish the Department of Education because that's part of what fascists do. They don't want you to have access to critical thinking skills. They don't want you to have access to history. They want you to have access to learning. Well, something about demolishing the Department of Education, as well as going after now these professions such as nursing. I don't know what the link is, Barbara, but there's got to be something that's there.
You know what it is. We know what fascists do. Fascists are hateful, and that's why her book, Randy Weingarten, everyone, her wonderful book is Why Do Fascists Hate Teachers? An amazing book, and I highly recommend it to people on your reading list for the winter, on your giving list to friends and others for this session. I've also been reading Jason Stanley's Erasing History, and it's also about why fascists, hate, people to be well-educated, knowledgeable, critical thinkers. That's not what they want. They want doers. They want people who will, do as they say and suffer and without resistance. So it is so critical, folks, that we take this holiday season to evaluate. It's the Trump administration is coming to the end of its first year, and it's horrific what they've done. And that's why our next subject is looking at, we've been talking about the nursing profession. We've been talking about USAID cuts and all the rest of this. Those are indirect ways of killing people. But let's talk about how they're directly killing people, directly slaughtering people, and unlawfully doing so. Daryl, you want to get us started about this whole, quote, Caribbean, drug intersection program where they are now, just blowing up, boats on the Caribbean Sea, allegedly from Venezuela, allegedly carrying drugs. But what is this about?
Yeah, but let's look at this, Barbara, because, as you said, allegedly carrying drugs, allegedly coming from Venezuela. They don't know where these boats are coming from, and I don't really think they know who's on them. But, what we do know is that, they're not battleships. They're not boats that are going to be launching aircraft or anything like that to go at anyone. What has been indicated is that these are boats that have, and they're saying that they have fentanyl and other drugs, right, that are on these boats, and they're coming out of, I guess, Venezuela is what the allegation is, and they're blowing them up, from air, from airplanes, and dropping bombs on them and just killing these folks. And then in one instance, right, that's really made the national news, that after they blew the boat up, there were two people that were holding on to some of the driftwood, right, that was remaining from the little raft that they were on. And so what do? They wait 45 minutes, an hour, or whatever it is, and then they do another bombing and kill them. They intentionally kill these folks that are shipwrecked and survivors who pose no danger at all. And Barbara, my goodness, the resignation of one of the admirals that were involved in the administration, saying that, I can't take this, I'm not going to be a part of this, and the subsequent attacks that have come from, particularly from the Democratic members of the parties that are in the military, that have said to folks in the military that, you don't need to follow an illegal order that's given to you. You don't need to carry that out. all of this now is really mushrooming in the face of the United States folks, and we've got to figure out where do we stand as a people. These are international war crimes, what they're doing when they're blowing these folks up that are defenseless, that are shipwrecked. It's like textbook stuff that you don't do with regards to war crimes. It's textbook stuff that you would do. If you were on the streets, Barbara, we'd call it straight-out murder. I mean, because that's what that was just straight-out murder. So
Daryl, it is murder. It is murder. No war has been declared. It is murder.
No war has been declared, and Congress has been. And the part to it, Karen, is that Congress. Where is Congress? They should be up in arms over there. Mm-hmm. I mean, the president has gone over into their category, said, "I don't need you to do any declarations. I don't even need to inform you of what I'm doing." You'll find out afterwards. This is just incredible. This is the reason why, Barbara, we push our young folks, we push our Gen Zs to say, do the right thing, don't cross the lines, go out there and push for your community, push for what's right. Whether you're in a minority position or majority position, you've got to push those to be certain that they're doing the right thing and be certain that you're doing the right thing. I'm so proud to see the steps that they've taken over the years, but I'm going to tell you, those are the folks we need in place right now to question the president, to question Hegseth. Barbara, the man, I don't know whether we want to say that he just outright lied or that he had, what do you call it, fog about what was going on with the second bombing. He's in the room, he's not in the room, he ordered it, he didn't order it. Come on now. I mean, this has just been an incredible set of circumstances with regards to what's happening with these bombings. And the scary part is that it continues. They didn't stop. It's still going on. Someone has got to have the ability to stand up, the strength, the intestinal fortitude to stand up and push back against what they're doing, Barbara.
I tell you, and, when I raised this, I think I probably raised my first, real objection to this in early October or late September when I became aware of what they were doing. And I said, this is, first of all, everybody listening, it is not a capital offense to sell drugs. I'm not saying it's a great thing. It's horrible. People shouldn't be, selling drugs, and that's why the Coast Guard interdicts these ships all the time and stops these little boats from, bringing in any kind of illegal substances. But it's not a capital offense. When the Coast Guard interdicts, they don't kill. They don't blow up the ships. And that's why people got to get serious about this. It is not so being judge, executioner. They don't know what's on those boats. They don't even take time to find out. At least the Coast Guard boards the boats and look at what's there to make sure it is, in fact, drugs. But they're just doing this video game. This is how stupid Hegseth is. They're playing video games. They're finding little boats, and they're putting them up on the screen, and then they're showing how they blow them up and laughing like it's a video game. And these are real lives. They have killed over 80 people, more than 80 people. I think it's up to 90 now with the killing they did the other day. And they are absolutely out of order. This is lawless. This is just illegal. It's illogical. It's contrary to every possibility in our Constitution. Folks, if you really believed that anybody who ever sold drugs should just be shot and killed immediately on the streets of our country, you would never put up with that. So the fact that they feel they can do it on the sea because these are foreign people, they're people, brown people, they feel like they can just do it is unacceptable. And when I raised this, more than 2 months ago, folks didn't want to hear me. They said, "Oh, Barbara, these are evil people. They got what's coming." I said, "How? Where is the due process? You don't just kill people on suspicion."
That's right.
I mean,
That's
come
right.
on, just come on. But nobody
And
wanted to hear it. And so, and I predicted this was going to blow. This was going to be a problem. Yes.
You're right on it. You're right on it, Barbara. And I have said that the reason they killed those last two people that were hanging on to that driftwood was because they wanted to be certain that the story didn't get out. They wanted to be certain that the story didn't get out because dead men don't talk. And that's the reason that you go back and you kill them, so that they can't tell the story of what really happened. Go ahead, Karen.
Can I add? And then 2 weeks later, they caught two and let them go back, repatriate to go back to Colombia. So you kill two, then you say, there's a problem. Then you let the other two go, as opposed to interrogating, finding out if this really was drugs. But as a
exactly.
But
wait a minute, Eric. But wait a minute, Karen, Daryl, Nation, everybody. While you're killing all these folks, you pardon.
Juan Hernandez.
You pardon someone who was convicted of bringing in tons of drugs. So much so, I think I read, Karen, Daryl, that it was enough to get Area American high at least 700 times based on the amount of drugs he brought in. I mean, and you pardon him? Pardon him. He hadn't even served not even 2 years of his sentence, and you pardon him? Are you kidding me? I mean, and then you say, the others are worthy of death, but we're going to pardon him? This is so corrupt. And did you guys see who helped to get his pardon? Did you notice who was in the background of the pardon? Try Roger Stone.
Roger Stone. Yep.
There we go again. There we go again. A corrupt, someone who has been convicted of corruption and other problems. This just tells you, folks, this warns you of what we're dealing with. This is just hate. This is just the worst of the worst. Now, while we're at it, go ahead, Karen.
Just as attorneys as well, too, for your perspective, because when you think about the Caribbean boat bombings in the context of swiping up and pulling up undocumented people and the erosion of our due process standards in this country, I think people need to look at this in the context of the further withering of our constitutional rights. And not many people, in my opinion, are drawing that connection.
You're right. And I think, I want to give a shout out to Admiral Alvin Hosley, who
Morehouse man.
What'd you say?
He's a Morehouse man. He's not taking it.
Brother man, I'm standing on principle. I'm going to do what's right.
He said, and yes, you folks, he's a black man, yes. He stood up and said, I won't do this. I'm not going to do your bidding. No, master, forget about it. Ain't happening. Not with me. I don't play that. So I'm just so grateful
Barbara,
to
you
him.
just took it back. Barbara, you just took it back to the 90s, to the way. And said, homie, don't play that.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, we don't do that. I mean, I'm so proud of him, and he's the hero in this story. And this story, folks, it's going to keep evolving. Now, don't forget that this all broke out after the President of the United States was talking about the 6 senators who did the ad to people in the military telling them that you are not obligated to follow an unlawful order, which is the law of the land. And they just stated it, and the president talked about, they're traitors. This is worthy of death. They ought to be, this is worthy of an execution. I mean, all of that nonsense, and then this breaks, and it exemplifies precisely why they did the ad. Does it not, Karen? Does it not, Daryl?
Oh, yes. And then they found the tape of when Pete Hegseth, Secretary Hegseth, said the same thing in 2016, that they are not obligated to follow unlawful. But Daryl, I want to get back to what you said as well, too, with, This is your first airstrike as the Secretary of Defense, and you leave the room for supposedly 20-some minutes, 40-some minutes. Allegedly. So, who were you meeting? You know, other than Jack Daniels and somebody, who were you meeting that you had to leave the room?
See, there you go. You got Tito and Jack Daniel in the room.
Oh, my goodness. Let's talk about the Supreme Court, people. Lord have mercy. Daryl, last Friday in the U.S. Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision in Abbott versus Lulac is the name of the case. The Supreme Court held that the Supreme Court refused to implement a decision of a lower court that had found that the new Texas map was an unconstitutional, racially discriminatory gerrymander, that it was purposely drawn to be a map to dilute minority voting power. And it was a 6-3 decision. We know who the 6 were, and we know who the 3 were. Daryl, what does this mean that they allowed this racially discriminatory map to proceed?
Wow, Barbara. I mean, this is a horrible decision. You know, the U.S. District Court in Texas, they actually had a multiple-day hearing on it. It was before a 3-judge panel at the U.S. District Court. They decided 2-1 that on its face that the 5 congressional districts that the Texas legislature had drawn, that at the request of the Department of Justice, at the request of President Trump, that on its face it violated Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and should be struck down, and that that LULAC had made the case that they would in all likelihood prevail. Well, Barbara, when it went up to the U.S. Supreme Court, as you've indicated, you know, the ultra conservative 6 decided, you know, that the case was going to be stayed, and that the map that was drawn that, you know, disempowered those 5 members of Congress was to be upheld and would be the map to be used in the 2026 election. What was really interesting, though, Barbara, and I actually did not know this until I did more research into it, it wasn't a complete decision with regard to the stay, on issuing the stay. What normally happens is that, you know, of the 9 justices, one of the justices over, you know, each particular region, and they make a decision as to whether or not to bring it. But the justice also has the opportunity to open it up to all of the justices to make the decision as to whether or not to grant the stay. And in this situation, Justice Alito was over the Texas case, and he's the one who said, you know, no, there were not going to be a stay. We're going to bring it up, and we're going to put the stay in place so that what the lower court did below after those extensive hearings and the 160-page opinion, we're going to set that to the side and not put that in action, and we're going to let these 5 congressional seats that were demanded by the Department of Justice, demanded by President Trump, go into play, and that will be used during this election cycle. Barbara, this is scary because one of the part of the rationale that Alito and his gang used in the Supreme Court in saying that they would not do anything was that they were saying that because it is so close to the election cycle now in Texas, because they're at the point now where people are beginning to campaign and the filing deadline is here, that it would cause confusion amongst the voters. And since it will cause confusion, we're not going to allow this to interfere. And so the maps that the legislature has come up with that disenfranchises all these black and brown people in Texas, that will be the map that will be used. What does it mean practically everywhere else? Well, it means that if you're in one of those states that you want to do some redistricting, say Virginia, where it's a 6 Democrat to 5 Republican state, and you want to go to 10-1 in Virginia, what you would do is you just wait to the last moment. and then go ahead and do your redistricting and lay it out there, because now the Supreme Court has laid the precedent of saying that if it's too close, that they won't get involved in however messed up gerrymandered district on steroids that you draw. They're going to leave it alone and let it ride through that election cycle, Barbara. Horrible decision. Horrible decision.
And everybody listening, in law school, we are taught, and I'm giving you a law school lesson today, that we are taught that the trier of fact, the actual court that tries the case, that hears all the facts, that
That's right.
looks at everything and comes to a decision, that if the decision is plausible and with the confines of the established law and the facts that were presented, that the trier of fact is given the deference, that you are to not disturb that decision except for clear and serious error. And this court did not make such a finding. What they said is that, remember last year we were talking about the Anderson, the South Carolina case, and we said, we talked about how horrible that decision was. Well, they took it a step farther. They said that in this case, even though the trier of fact had found clear evidence of racial gerrymandering, I mean, without a question, they said, well, they still should have given deference to the good faith of the state legislature. Mind you, the state legislature never took action of this until the U.S. Department of Justice sent this letter saying you got too many racial coalition districts, and we don't like that, and it's illegal. The U.S. Department of Justice letter was found to be so riddled with typos, and legally it was wrong. It was flawed. But on the basis of that letter, the Texas governor said to the state legislature, we have to redraw the maps based on this letter from the U.S. Department of Justice. And the U.S.
One
Department
step back,
of
Barbara.
Justice.
Yeah, go one step back from there, right? Because the letter, they didn't just send the letter. They Department of Justice
go ahead.
didn't just look at Texas and say, we need to send this letter because it looks like a violation of the Voting Rights Act and a violation because, you have these coalition districts. The Department of Justice didn't do any of that until President Trump said, I need 5 new congressional districts in Texas. Find me those 5 districts in Texas. That's when the Department of Justice then responds. Go ahead, Barbara.
And Daryl, taking a step back from that, before he picked up that phone, they actually had a delegation of Texas legislators who came to and met at the White House. And it was suggested to them at that meeting that they should redraw their maps, and they said no. They said no, N-O, we won't do it. It's not necessary. After 5 days, I think it is, after that meeting is when the DOJ letter appears. And in conjunction with the president's call. Folks, this was a pure racial gerrymander. It has been the obligation of the Supreme Court of the United States to protect the people of this nation from racial discrimination. But in this instance, because it serves a political purpose that they support, they allowed this to proceed. It is horrific. I mean, the Purcell principle that they applied here, talk about, it's too close to the election. They never should have interjected themselves. Well, if in fact the court did it too close to the election, how in the world did the redrawing of the map not also violate the Purcell principle in the first place? Folks, it is, as Daryl said, we are dealing with a highly manipulative environment in the Supreme Court. I want to give the Honorable Justice Elena Kagan credit for her wonderful dissent. If you are interested in law, if you care about the law of our land, read her dissent. If you're a student studying, read her dissent. If you're a practicing lawyer, read her dissent. If you're just if you just care about the politics of our country, read her dissent. It is so well done, so well written. It destroys the argument of the majority. It pulls the cover off and shows that they are just negatively engaging in a perversion of our Constitution. Wow.
I think as well, too, part of the larger picture is that when people feel that their votes don't matter and, participation drops and democracy erodes, and courts, by their decision, are allowing politicians to choose their voters instead of voters choosing their leaders. And these maps are certainly dilute the power of Black and brown communities before a single ballot is even cast. So election day, the outcome is already tilted, and if it's already tilted, who wants to participate? And that's what the agenda is. So I think, folks need to be mindful of that. This is all part of the plan, and the best way to combat that is to come out in numbers too big to
yes.
Yeah.
And also, folks, we're running out of time. There's so much to talk about. That's why it's dangerous to let us get on here. But let us, talk about Maryland real quick. There was a hearing last Friday of the Maryland Redistricting Commission that was set up by Governor Westmore, and the hearing, I think it was like 2-1 in favor of Maryland engaging in a redistricting to offset Texas, especially because of what the Supreme Court has done here. And Daryl, there's a new hearing coming up on the 12th, right? And you and I are scheduled to testify.
Yeah, and anyone, if you're in the state of Maryland, we encourage you to sign up to testify. You can go to Maryland Redistricting Commission, just Google it, and it should take you to the site where you can sign up to testify. It's a virtual meeting, so you can testify from wherever you are. It's not a live thing where you have to travel or anything along those lines to testify. But yeah, Barbara, both you and I are signed up to testify this upcoming Friday, the 12th, and the time will be from 4 to 6, from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And if you don't want to testify, you can sign up just to listen and to hear and see what's going on, so you can hear the arguments that are being made. In addition to that, Barbara, if you're in the state of Maryland, Karen, Prince George's County, or if you're in Harford County, which is one of the areas that's really targeted because Maryland is what we call a 7-to-1 state, meaning that there are 8 members of Congress. 7 members of those Congress are Democrats. 1 member of the Congress is Republican. The redistricting effort that's going on in the state of Maryland is really focused on that one conservative or Republican district that's there. It's not necessarily saying they want to make it a 80% or whatever Democratic district, but they want to make it a competitive district so that whether it's a Democrat or Republican that wins, it would give them a better opportunity to be closer to the interests and the thoughts and the concerns of the constituents of that congressional district. But if you want to sign up to listen, you definitely go to that Maryland Congressional Redistricting website, and you can sign up to listen. You can also send in your testimony, so you can mail in your thoughts. You can write something up and email it in to the commission to let them know what your thoughts are. And this, folks, is really huge. And folks always say, well, you're only talking about one congressional vote when you're talking about the state of Maryland. If you're going from 7 to 8, you're only talking about one congressional vote. Well, Barbara, we should remind our listeners, in case they missed the show a couple of weeks ago, that when we talked about the redistricting that went on in North Carolina, we talked about one congressional district that was being changed over from Democrat to Republican, and it happened to be a black member of Congress. When we talked about Missouri, we were talking about one congressional district that was being changed over, and it happened to be what? An African-American member of Congress. When we're talking about Indiana, we're talking about very few districts that are being changed over, taking over Gary, taking over Indianapolis. Folks, this is serious stuff because we're looking at how Congress is configured. We're looking at the guardrails that are available to protect our democracy. This is the reason why the state of Maryland is pushing forward, and citizens from the state of Maryland are trying to push forward to have the Senate President, Bill Ferguson, who's against it right now, to allow a special session for this to happen. If you're in the state of Maryland, Barbara, we certainly encourage people on December the 16th to come out and get involved, because there is going to be an activation to push during that special session, because there's a special session because of the speaker that's stepping down, a new speaker that's coming in. They're going to do a special session on the 16th. Use that opportunity to tell those members of Congress, tell those members of the House of Delegates and Senate of Maryland that you support redistricting, Barbara.
Absolutely. Please get involved, everyone. There's all these ways to get involved. Don't forget that if you want to engage your congressperson, 202-224-3121, 202-224-3121, and you will find that they'll give you and transfer you to your correct congressperson, to your correct senator, to your correct House member. Now, one of the most fascinating things happened yesterday. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, whose district is one of the ones that's been affected by this, quote, gerrymander in Texas, she announced that she's running for Senate, that she's going to run for the U.S. Senate from the state of Texas. Oh, this isn't, the New England area. This isn't the Midwest. She's running from the state of Texas. And she, of course, is one of the most high-profile African-American women in Congress, period, without a saying. What in the world, Karen, when you heard about her announcement that she would run for Senate, that she's running for the Senate, what did you think?
I had someone ask me that, and they were saying, oh, is it symbolic, or will she truly, reshape the landscape? And I was like, it's both, because it disrupts who people think belong in power. And it forces new coalitions, new turnout, and a very different kind of debate. So I'm excited because she represents a political shift that doesn't ask for permission. She's sharp, she's bold, she's unafraid to challenge power, and whether you support her or oppose her, she changes the temperature of the race. And I'm excited to see what happens.
Wow. And Daryl, you and I have spent time with Congressman Crockett before she was a congressperson, after she's been a congressperson.
I was at the dinner too.
Right, and you were at the dinner before also. So we know her. So, she's an amazing person. Daryl, what in the world did you think when you heard this, that she's going to be running for U.S. Senate from the state of Texas? What did you think about it?
Well, Barbara, Congressman Crockett in the state of Texas reminds me of Ann Richards. And Ann Richards, to the degree that there is a strength of person that's there. There's something about Congresswoman Crockett. You don't have to wonder where she stands on an issue. All you have to do is listen to her, because she's going to tell you where she stands on the issue, and she's not going to move. Let me tell you, I don't think anything could be more symbolic of the importance and the weight of her running for the U.S. Senate than the day that she's announcing that Congressman Colin Allred said, I'm not running for the U.S. Senate.
Yes.
He's
My brother.
backing down. He's stepping out. The brother is stepping back because he knows that when Congressman Crockett gets into this race, it's going to be on. He wants to be certain that she has a full frontal shot to win this U.S. Senate seat. And I fully believe that, one of the things, Barbara, you and I always hear Reverend Jackson when he was talking about the 900,000 unregistered voters that are in Texas, that they came forward and started voting. Look for Congresswoman Crockett to go and start picking up those rocks of unregistered voters and having them get registered, to toss their rocks into the water, to say we are here, we're demanding to be treated correctly, and we want to be represented. Look for that to happen out of this race, Barbara, because I think Jasmine Crockett is going to ignite that base and ignite folks in Texas in a way that has not been done in years.
Yes. And let's raise another figure from the past. There's so many powerful congresswomen, black congresswomen who have served in Texas. Barbara Jordan. Let's think about her. Sheila Jackson Lee. Oh, there's just so many I could just go through that have done their job. And Congresswoman Crockett, she is a phenomenal. We haven't seen anybody quite like her. And I urge everyone to watch this campaign, to learn, because she's going to show that special magic that she brings to these kinds of circumstances. And I can't wait to watch this campaign. It's going to be different. It's going to be impactful. And also, we want everyone to know that as we're, winding down this show, that we have not taken our eyes off of ICE. We have been watching your evil ICE. We'll talk about it in coming up in some of our future shows. But we just want to say to everybody out there, continue to resist ICE. Continue to protect your neighbors. Continue to show that there's something called the U.S. Constitution, and people should just not be kidnapped off the streets by masked men and shuttled over to detention centers. They have been increasingly capturing U.S. citizens in this trap and in this web. So, folks, what a week. We can't wait for next week. Daryl?
Absolutely, Barbara. Certainly want to give a huge thanks and shout out to Dr. Karen McRae for joining with us. She always jumps right on in. She doesn't need much pushing. She's ready. And she proved it again today. Thank you so much, Dr. McRae, for being with us today. Folks, we urge you to go to tjcoalition.org, tjcoalition.org. Put TJC under your Christmas tree. Put TJC under your Christmas tree and give to the Transformative Justice Coalition so we can continue the work of putting forth the fight of being certain that everyone's right to vote is respected and amplified. That's what we're about. Folks, until next Tuesday, noon, Eastern Standard Time, get off the sidewalks, get into the streets, get into some good trouble, and when time is right, make your way to the ballot box. Until next Tuesday, noon, Eastern Standard Time, peace, everybody.
Peace.